Thanks everyone for joining us. This is the third episode. We're talking a bit about Chinese investment into Germany. And so I think, one of the questions we see a lot in the media is that there's increasing restrictions on investment into companies in this corona times. And I think, one of the issues is Germany still open for Chinese investment, or what's the feeling in Germany about Chinese investment?
Yes, we are indeed very open for Chinese investment. And actually, just today, we received a clearance from the ministry on Chinese investment into Germany. So we see it's still possible. And in any legislation that is published in Germany regarding this foreign investment control, the preamble stresses that Germany shall remain open to foreign investment. Having said this, there are still some concerns. In particular, the critical infrastructure and critical technology. And there are some restrictions, and the authorities look closely into these transactions.
And so critical infrastructure, critical technology, technology is a big word. Infrastructure is a big term as well. And the voting shares are only 10%. So, does this really affect in practice many companies, or is this relatively rare that it affects the deal?
It is a broad definition, but it only affected a few cases. The problem with this is that deal certainty is a bit at risk, because you never know which company really is considered to be in this sector. For example, we have seen a company that was a normal engineering company in Germany, and they were not even aware that their products were used somewhere. They sold their products to someone, and this party used them for the German military. And and now that their technology was seen as critical. And sometimes even the target is not really aware of what happens with their project, with their products, and why they are so important for certain, let it be military aspects, let it be some other technology that the German government considers to be very important. And that's the critical part of it, because at the beginning of the deal, you do not have the full picture yet. Of course, when a client approaches us, we try to be as specific. We try to analyze the company based on the website, based on talking to management. We also give questions to the Chinese clients to check their trading relationship and all that is relevant. But you never can have a full certainty that a transaction will not be seen as critical.
And so I see there in the three different kind of boxes. So in this first one, which has defense mostly, so non-German investors. So this means there are some very tight controls on this. So this means even like a French company can't necessarily buy these kind of companies. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. The first is a sector-specific proceeding. They are mainly related to the defense sector. So that's all products that are relevant for the military weapons, things like that. So that has a pretty narrow field of application. Although we have seen it suddenly apply in one case where some product was qualified as a product that was in this sector. But usually with all normal automotive companies or whatever the Chinese investors are interested in, this normally does not come into play.
Okay, and so just a question, I think that a lot of Chinese companies now have investments around the world, and they will have companies in Germany, they will have companies in France, they'll have companies in the UK or whatever. So if a Chinese company already had a German company, does that get around this, or how do they actually tell what a German company is?
That's an interesting question, and we had a discussion with someone from the ministry at a seminar. It was already 2 years ago or so, and because that question is, if you establish a German SPV, a special purpose vehicle, just for acquiring a German company. It's clear that this will not qualify as a German investor, but this will be a foreign investor. But if you have a company, let's put an example. We discussed the example at that time, for example, KUKA, which is now controlled by Chinese. But KUKA is a full operative German company. If they now do an add-on acquisition, it's not fully sure whether this would also apply, trigger the foreign investment control to apply. Nevertheless, I would not be certain that it does not.
Any other hints to give people if they are concerned about this? Is it something to be worried about, or is it something that really doesn't matter to many people?
It has an impact on timing, of course, because currently in the recent years, they have enforced that. They have added additional mandatory filing requirements for critical infrastructure. So a lot of advisors now advise to do the filing, even if it's voluntary or if you are not 100% sure that it's voluntary. And this means the relevant department at the ministry is they have so many filings right now. So they try to work through everything, and they are quite cooperative. So you can easily approach them, but still they take quite a long time. And the process is structured that the decision is not made by the Ministry of Economics itself. Formally, yes, but they have to ask other authorities. And since October last year, this was also shifted on European level. So the ministry not only has to ask other authorities like the Ministry of Defense or the IT security authority, but they also have to contact the authorities in all other member states and set a deadline for them to reply. And if there is something coming back, you know, there's a process that starts, and these need to get into discussions. And so, of course, timing is an issue. It can easily take 6 months to a year to get such clearance.
So, but that makes it a bit scary. But do you think it is a problem for many deals? Because if everybody's starting to file and then everybody has to ask 27 different countries, this must add to the deal uncertainty, I guess.
I think it's not a problem for many deals, but it's a problem for deals that Chinese companies might be interested in. So, for example, consumer goods or something like that, I would not see it a problem. Real estate, football clubs, and all this. But this is what is to a certain extent restricted investment from a Chinese perspective. And what is considered encouraged investment from a Chinese perspective is usually what is seen a bit more critical from the German authorities. It does not mean that it does not go through, because most of the transactions pass the scrutiny and still do. So there are very few prohibitions so far, but still it has an impact on timing, and you have to deal with it. The best advice we can give is to start to look into these issues early. You can even file before signing the SPA. Usually the problem is that you have to get all the information from Chinese side and from the target side, and that also takes a while, because you also have to disclose the investment structure. And in particular with financial investors from China, the structure is pretty complex and is often not fixed until shortly after signing even, because it's more a type of funding model where you have various investors forming setting up some fund, and that fund invests then in the target. And you have to gather all these informations from all these investors. So you should start very early with that, and then you will be able to file around signing, and then you have to wait for the decision of the ministry.
Great. Okay, well, thanks, Sandra. I guess if anyone's got questions, they can always reach out to you or one of the colleagues in the Frankfurt office.
Sure. Looking forward to receive a lot of questions on that. Happy to answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Bye-bye.